For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We start today in Mexico, where anger continues as authorities have failed to provide new information on the case of 43 missing students missing out of Iguala. Activists vow to continue mobilizations across the country and have called for a 72-hour strike. It comes after federal authorities released contradictory accounts on the investigation. The case has sparked protests and vigils across the world. Mexican citizens living in Washington, D.C. and the United States held a vigil on Sunday outside the White House to demand justice for the 43 missing students. For the latest on the case and the calls for justice, we turn to our Mexico correspondent, Clayton Kahn.
Ayotzinapa was present this past holiday weekend here in Mexico as the country celebrated its infamous Day of the Dead. Traditional altars and offerings were set up throughout the country in public spaces and cemeteries for the 43 disappeared students and 3 killed in Guerrero back in late September. Meanwhile, parents of the youth continued to insist that their children may be found alive, that the authorities needs to continue to open lines of investigation that do not, quote, only search for mass graves. Also this past weekend, an inter-university assembly of students from Mexico's largest public universities and more than 70 education institutions voted on a resolution to hold a 72-hour strike starting on November 5th. The students also agreed to a so-called mega march on November 5th from the president's official residence to the country's main plaza, the Zócalo, with the same demand of returning the 43 Ayotzinapa students alive. This is Clayton Kahn reporting for Telesur here in Mexico City.
And thanks to Clayton. And in other Latin American news, peace talks between the Colombian government and the FARC guerrillas continue in Havana, Cuba. That's where victims' delegations participating in the talks have requested protection from the government. The victims have received death threats and warnings from right-wing paramilitary groups. The UN representative at the peace talks, Fabricio O'Child, confirms the threats and that organizers of the victims' delegations were also being targeted by extremist groups. In Argentina, President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner was hospitalized late on Sunday. The president suffered a severe fever due to intestinal infection. The president is now in the Otamendi hospital and, according to officials, could leave as early as today or tomorrow morning. They say she has shown considerable improvement. On Sunday night, the third shipment of humanitarian aid from Venezuela will set off on its way to Palestine. The airplane carrying over 10 tons of food and medical supplies will make a security stop in Jordan before its final stop. Following the delivery, 100 Palestinian students will travel to Venezuela to study as part of the nation's Yasser Arafat Scholarship. The initiative is part of a wider scheme of cooperation between the South American country and Palestine. And also out of Palestine, the closure of border crossings into Egypt and Israel could devastate the economy there. As our correspondent Noor Harazin reports, it comes as one of several negative developments for Palestinians.
Now we can literally say that Gaza is 100% under Egyptian-Israeli siege. After the terrorist attack that happened in Sinai in Egypt a week ago, Egypt decided to impose its collective punishment policies on the people of Gaza, closing Rafah border in the face of getting people in and out of the Gaza Strip, at the same time goods. Also 2 days ago, when a rocket was reported being fired from Gaza and hit a land in Israel, causing no damage or injuries, the Israeli side decided to also impose its collective punishment policies on the Gaza Strip, closing both Erez crossing and also Karm Shalom goods crossing with the Gaza Strip, which means that since yesterday and for the next weeks, nothing will be allowed to be out from the Gaza Strip or into the Gaza Strip, including people and goods and materials and everything else. For now, the residents and the officials here are calling on the international community to intervene to help the Gaza Strip. The people here need fuel for the electricity, they need clean water, they need food, they need materials. At the same time, injured people and patients need to go out of the Rafah border crossing. However, on the other hand, in the West Bank, the Palestinian Prisoners Committee said that the Israeli forces detained more than 23 Palestinians in different cities in the West Bank yesterday. At the same time, the Israeli forces continue to impose strict conditions on the Palestinian worshippers, Palestinian Muslim worshippers, to enter the holy site of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
And thanks to Noor. And now we go to the United States, where midterm elections are set for Tuesday. The latest polls show that Republicans are leading in most of the disputed states, such as Kentucky, Louisiana, and Georgia. Democrats are hoping that a high turnout will help boost their chances. Some independent candidates, such as Greg Orman in Kansas, are hoping for a surprising win.
These policies are on the ballot.
To Ukraine, where elections there took place on Sunday in the rebel-held regions of Lugansk and Donetsk. The general elections, which saw pro-independence candidates win, were criticized and not recognized by Kiev nor the European Union. The Russian government has not officially recognized the results, but both regions have urged the EU and Ukraine to accept the legitimacy of the elected leaders. Russian leaders made the calls in an effort to continue talks aimed at ending the conflict in eastern Ukraine. In Pakistan, 7 people were arrested early on Monday following a suicide attack that killed at least 60 people and wounded over 100. Responsibility for the attack was claimed by both the Pakistani Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The explosion took place in the Punjab province and was the deadliest attack since September last year. The government has issued a red alert and is on watch for any further bombings. To Syria, heavy fighting continues in the town of Kobani near the border with Turkey. The town's Kurdish population has been battling Islamic State militants for weeks in the strategic town. Reinforcements from Iraq's Kurdish army, the Peshmerga, have arrived to assist in the fighting. Meanwhile, Islamic State soldiers in Syria said on Monday they had taken control of a gas field in the central province of Homs. It is the second gas field seized in a week following battles with government forces. And we go now to Burkina Faso, where tensions there continue to mount following the overthrow of President Blaise Compaoré. The head of the nation's transitional government, Lieutenant Colonel Isaac Zida, has promised that the armed forces will withdraw from the political arena and that a civil leader will take over the transitional period. Meanwhile, a young protester was killed during a demonstration at the headquarters of Burkina Faso's national television station. Taking a look at a cultural note, over the weekend, people around Latin America celebrated the famous Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos. The Day of the Dead is a traditional indigenous custom which predates the Spanish colony. The 1st and 2nd of November, Mexicans celebrate their deceased loved ones and deliver offerings to their graves with the belief that the dead return to their bodies on these days. El Dia de los Muertos is also celebrated in other Latin American nations such as Guatemala, Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia. Plenty more on those stories and plenty others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.